Hello friends, welcome to Ecoholics YouTube channel. My name is Avinash and in this video I'll be discussing with you economics current affairs for 3rd September 2024. So good news from my side guys, this is the 100th video of this particular lecture series. We had started these lectures on 1st of May, so entire May, entire June, entire July, entire August, and now in September we are continuing with this lecture series every day in the morning from Monday to Saturday, right? And we are discussing current affairs. We are discussing 3 articles per day. I am giving you 3 questions to practice answer writing per day. This note is freely available from the Ecoholics app, which you all can download. This note is available in the study material section, in the current affairs section, in the study material section. So it has been a good journey so far, right? Do download all the notes, PDFs. You will see that, substantial amount of current affairs, diversity of topics relevant to examination have been covered in a very pinpointed manner, which give you a lot of inputs जो कि आप use कर सकते हैं for fetching better marks in your examinations. Right? Let us start with today's discussion. आज का discussion is going to be dedicated towards ESG. It is going to be dedicated towards environment, sustainability, green, and so on and so forth kind of topics, right? So Mint newspaper ने जो है एक sustainability summit organize करा था, and they have reported extensively based upon the discussion that happened in that sustainability summit, right? So the idea over here is that ये जो 3 articles मैंने select करे हैं आपके लिए, the good thing is that ये तीनों article के अंदर you will see viewpoints of at least 5 different people, right? तो आपको बहुत अच्छे viewpoints मिलेंगे. But the bad part is that given the fact that 5 लोगों के viewpoints आपको मिलेंगे, so you will not find the structure in these articles a lot, right? So मैं अपनी तरफ से कोशिश करूंगा that the storytelling is appropriate, right? But the point over here is that structure उतना ज्यादा नहीं रहने वाला है इन articles के अंदर, so don't blame yourself if you are not fully understanding everything. I'll try my best to make sure that you understand everything. ठीक है, चलो let's start with talking about green bonds, right? Government incentives for attracting ESG capital. So first of all, what is bond? So bond is basically a debt instrument. If you are a corporate and you need money to start a project or invest in a project, you can issue bonds and you can raise debt from the market, from the investors. Similarly, government can issue green bonds, municipalities can issue green bonds. What is the green in green bond? Green in green bond means that this money can be used only for environmentally friendly projects, or only into those projects which help in climate mitigation or in climate adaptation, right? So there are clear-cut guidelines that where can you invest this money which you have raised through green bond. Same goes for ESG capital, that when you pick up ESG related investments or finance, then necessarily that money has to go into projects which are environmentally benign, socially helpful, and so on, right? So what India needs to do is that we need to make green bonds more attractive, and government of India has worked a lot on it. In a separate article I will speak about how government of India has made green bonds functional, attractive, practically possible in India, right? And we need to create incentive for foreign capital, right? So that we can attract ESG related investment, right? Now there are a lot of fund houses across the world. There are a lot of investors across the world who are really having and are interested in putting ESG related investments into projects, right? तो हमारे को वैसे projects बनाने पड़ेंगे जो वो प्रकार का investment attract कर सके. That is also very very important. हमारे को वो verification mechanism बनाने पड़ेंगे जो कि उन projects की progress, उन projects का contribution इन so far as sustainability is concerned, वो सारी चीजों को measure कर सके, verify कर सके, report back कर सके, and trust develop करके और funding attract कर सके. So we will have to create an entire ecosystem to be able to attract ESG related investments or green bonds into our country. It's not something which the private sector alone can do. It's not something which the government alone can do. It's not something which the academia alone can do. It's not something which the third party verifiers alone can do. इन सारे लोगों को साथ में आना पड़ेगा to make an ecosystem available in India to attract ESG investments. तो दुनिया के अंदर बहुत सारा पैसा है दोस्तों, बहुत सारा पैसा है जो कि हमारे कंट्री के अंदर लाया जा सकता है in the form of green finance, right? As of now कुछ constraints हैं कितना कैपिटल ला सकते हैं, किस सेक्टर में ला सकते हैं, राइट. So because of this, investment is sometimes finds it difficult to come into India. So we need better credit rating for green bonds, right? We need to give them favorable treatment, right? Green bonds के लिए we need to give some fiscal incentives from the government's side, right? So fiscal incentives like for example tax break, maybe tax holiday, maybe tax concession, right? तो ये सारी चीजों के बारे में हमारे को थोड़ा सा सोचना पड़ेगा, right? Along with this, we need to make sure that there is regulatory and policy certainty, right? अब जैसे for example ले लीजिए electric vehicles और hybrid vehicles के बीच में which is it that you are going to support? Are you going to give electric vehicles upper edge by giving them more tax concession, or are you going to treat them at par with hybrid vehicles which are not exactly completely green like electric vehicles can be, right? So आप कौन सी चीज को देने वाले हो advantage, या what is going to be your policy? So whatever your policy is going to be, you need to decide that policy, communicate that policy, and then stick to that policy. Because once you create a policy, then based on that, people do calculation. Based on those calculations, they do investments. So the idea over here is that there has to be a lot of regulatory and policy certainty, right? What I have given you is just one example, right? ये चीज हमने कई बार हमारे lectures में discuss करी है, आपको easily समझ में आएगी, इसीलिए मैं आपको example दे रहा हूँ. बट बहुत सारे एरियाज है जहां पर देयर इज अ रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ रेगुलेटरी एंड पॉलिसी सर्टेनिटी विदाउट विच इन्वेस्टमेंट विल नॉट कम इनटू योर कंट्री. कीप दैट इन माइंड, राइट. जो जहां तक बात रही कॉर्पोरेट क्लाइमेट एक्शन की, सो कॉर्पोरेट क्लाइमेट एक्शन चाहे इंडिया हो, यूएस हो, कनाडा हो, जर्मनी हो, राइट, दे आर ड्रिवन बाय द सेम गोल्स. They want to make sure that there is some level of profitability. They want to make sure that there is some level of risk sharing. Corporates cannot take the entire risk, right? They want to make sure that investment is coming into their ventures, right? And if all these three things are happening, they are happy to play ball, right? उनको कोई problem नहीं है. So whether it's a corporate in India or corporate in Germany, they will look at these parameters and they will take their decisions going ahead, right? कई बार now what is happening is that India has fantastic national level targets so far as sustainability is concerned, but हमारे जो corporate level के goals है they are not exactly aligned with our national level targets. इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है कि corporates are chasing profitability via the old fossil fuel ways, old industrial revolution ways, लेकिन जो हमारे national level targets है they are going towards sustainability, towards net zero and so on and so forth. तो ये दोनों चीजों को अलाइन करना पड़ेगा, तब जाकर हमारा कुछ काम हो पाएगा. टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, राइट, सो एट वन पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम इंडियाज नेशनल लेवल टारगेट वाज टू अचीव सेल्फ रिलायंस, राइट. सो व्हेन द ऑब्जेक्टिव वाज टू अचीव सेल्फ रिलायंस, सो कॉर्पोरेट्स के गोल्स थे, पीएसयूज के गोल्स थे दैट स्टार्ट प्रोड्यूसिंग दोज आइटम्स इन इंडिया व्हिच आर क्रिटिकल, which we cannot import from others, and we want to be self-reliant in that, right? So what you need to do is that if you have a national level target, then you need to have a corporate level set of goals which are aligning with those national level targets. So I'm giving you examples to bring this topic closer home to you, right? So I hope that this is making sense to you now. Okay, moving ahead, like I spoke about third party verification, this is extremely important. This is extremely important, guys, right? I'll give you an example why this is important. So government of India has given subsidy for modernization, but did you actually invest in modernization? या फिर you purchased farmland in the name of modernization? Let's say that you are an industry and you took money from government of India in the form of subsidy for modernization, but you didn't do modernization. So उससे क्या हुआ कि सब्सिडी भी वेस्ट हो गया और मॉडर्नाइजेशन भी नहीं हुआ. What is the problem? Problem is money got wasted because there is no verification, right? So international investors are not stupid. They are not just going to give you money because oh you're looking beautiful and oh you are coming from a good institution, oh you are having a brand name. No, they need third party verification that things are actually happening on ground, what you are saying is happening. This is extremely important in India startups because the entire system over here is very dubious in terms of reporting and being accountable for, right? So the idea over here is that third party verification of claims of everything that you're doing is extremely important. I'm skipping some parts of the article because not everything needs to be discussed over here, right? So another one last aspect that this very beautiful article is talking about is the fact that we need to invest a lot more in research and development, not just at the country level but at the corporate level also, at the private sector level also. We need to do a lot of investment into research and development, right? and investors are looking at this very closely, right? So they're not just going to look at financial returns going ahead, the good investors, big investors, they will also be looking at social and environmental returns. So if you are a startup or if you are an organization, then it is in your advantage going ahead to look at your social relevance, to look at your environmental relevance. And if you have that going for you, then going ahead, scaling up, attracting investment, getting an exit, taking your firm to the market, all of these things are going to be that much more easier if you are, let's say, aligned with ESG, right? So the conclusion of this article is that there is a significant amount of money that can come into climate mitigation, right? The challenge is that we need to attract money for energy transition, for climate transition, for climate adaptability, right? Nobody is questioning that adaptation is important, but money is not coming into adaptation. But we need to be able to attract money into adaptation, and for that, we need to do the above steps that we just discussed. So this is my article number 1 discussed. Okay. So this article, I'm sure that's a new article for a lot of us who have not been reading about climate. But if this is a start, then this is a good start. Now, please try to answer this question as good as you can, right? If you have to do a little more research, please do that, right? So evaluate the role of government policies and regulatory frameworks in enhancing ESG investments, right? And making it attractive in emerging economies. Discuss the challenges and suggest measures to bridge the gap between available capital and effective ESG project implementation, right? So there are two things over here. ESG investment को हमारे को इंडिया के अंदर लेकर आना है, एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली ESG के प्रोजेक्ट इंप्लीमेंटेशन के ऊपर हमारे को काम करना है. If we can do both of these two things simultaneously, so it will be a virtuous cycle. Given the fact that India has aced, या India is the champion implementer of ESG projects. एक बार पूरी दुनिया को विश्वास हो गया तो बहुत पैसा इंडिया में आ सकता है, और बहुत पैसा इंडिया में अगर आ सकता है, so India can be a champion implementer of ESG projects. ये दोनों चीजों को अगर हमने simultaneously कर दिया तो ये दोनों चीजों को अगर हमने simultaneously कर लिया, so it's going to be absolutely fantastic, friends, right? And this is what you need to be aiming for as a policy maker, as thinker, as thought leaders. You need to take your country ahead in this direction, right? Now let us speak about solar energy, right? So solar के ऊपर काफी कुछ बातचीत हुआ है. So this article is going to give you a general sense of what is not right so far as our solar energy push is concerned. ठीक है? Now the question is that how much time will decarbonization take? How much time will transition to net zero take? Nobody is questioning the need to go to decarbonization. What is decarbonization? Stop using fossil fuels in whatever processes you are using them, right? Start using green energy. So decarbonization and transition ka relevance is no longer a question mark. What is a question mark is the time that will be taken to achieve it, right? Now there are significant roadblocks in our solar energy sector, right? सप्लाई चेन इश्यूज है. मेजर सप्लाई चेन इशू ये है कि वी स्टिल डू नॉट हैव डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटीज फॉर सोलर सेल्स, राइट? So we are import dependent for solar cells, which is a very important input in, let us say, in solar panels, let us say, and obviously you need solar panels to generate solar energy, right? So there are obstacles. There is a policy related uncertainty again, right, which is harmful. So you see that even if you don't know too much about a particular area, you know that government's policy can be, a problematic area. You know that supply chain can be a problematic area. So in the previous article, global finance or green finance की supply chain के अंदर problem था कि that money is there, but that money is not flowing into India. तो हमारे को कहीं ना कहीं पाइप के अंदर जो clogging है, उस पाइप के अंदर से clogging को हटाना पड़ेगा. Supply chain issue. In the previous article also we spoke about the fact that policy level certainty is important, clarity is important. इस article में भी we are talking about the same. So you see, it's not as if that when you go from one topic to another, it will be completely a start from scratch. ऐसा नहीं है, right? जो general problems है, जो general understandings है, they become applicable in a variety of different ways. ठीक है? Now the idea is that solar cells and solar modules के ऊपर हमारे को जो है डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी को इंप्रूव करना है. सो एज ऑफ नाउ सोलर मॉड्यूल्स इज नॉट सच अ बिग प्रॉब्लम, बट जो सोलर सेल का प्रोडक्शन दैट इज कॉजिंग अ कंसर्न, राइट? एंड गवर्नमेंट के जो डायरेक्टिव्स है उसकी वजह से प्राइवेट सेक्टर जो सोलर सेल के अंदर इन्वेस्ट कर सकता है या जो प्रोडक्शन कर सकता है, दे आर नॉट एबल टू रैंप अप द प्रोडक्शन. Maybe we'll have to look at it more closely. Right now in this article they have not given too much detail. they have given a lot of superficial problems. They have identified a lot of problems. They haven't gone into a lot of details. So maybe one more article will help us. But as of now, the idea that you need to take home is that solar cells के अंदर we are not domestically self-sufficient, and policy level certainty needs to be there to help us in achieving that. Okay, financial sustainability होना चाहिए किसी भी sector का, right? Otherwise that sector will not attract a lot of investment, right? But in India what is happening is that जो आज का tariff structure है, it is not helping in covering the entire production cost, right? This is also what some of the stakeholders are saying. So tariff structure needs to be aligned well, right? Because उसके बिना काम नहीं हो पाएगा. Second problem with another problem with solar is grid, right? कि जो grid के अंदर आप एनर्जी डाल रहे हैं और उसको आपको ट्रांसपोर्ट करवाना है टू वेरियस यूजर्स, राइट? तो उसके लिए हमारे को जो है ग्रिड को थोड़ा सा रीइमेजिन करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज सोलार इज अवेलेबल ओनली ड्यूरिंग डे टाइम एंड वी हैव नो मैकेनिज्म टू स्टोर सोलार पावर इन बैटरीज एक्सेट्रा. सो हम सोलार पावर को ग्रिड में डे टाइम पे डाल सकते हैं, व्हाट अबाउट नाइट टाइम? सो इन दैट सेंस वी विल हैव टू रीइमेजिन द ग्रिड, राइट? बिकॉज हमारी ग्रिड बनी ही नहीं थी इस चीज के लिए. अब हम उस ग्रिड को इलेक्ट्रिसिटी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ग्रिड को यूज कर रहे हैं, राइट? बट वी नीड टू डू समथिंग, यू नो, इन टर्म्स ऑफ imagining how this grid can be retrofitted so that it is helpful so far as solar is concerned, right? And of course investor interest is there. Of course government's policy framework is evolving in the right direction. Lot more needs to be done. We can think in terms of taking a hybrid approach, right? That we have to combine solar with other renewable energy like wind, right? So that we have a balanced energy mix. This is again speaking about the same grid problem. What do I mean by balanced energy mix? That if there is a 24 hours ka timeline throughout the day, so during this particular part of the day solar will be applicable. During this particular part of the day some other sources of energy need to be, you know, generating energy, and then ये सब मिलकर जो है grid के अंदर जाने लग रहा है. This is what we need to be able to do. Easier said than done, right? So पेपर के ऊपर डायग्राम बनाना बहुत इजी है, रियलिटी में बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. That is what we need to function on. So the second question is that we have to identify key challenges in our solar energy sector, whether it is supply chain issues or tariff structure, and then we need to discuss potential strategies, evaluate the role of government policies, how we can support the sector, right? So this is the start of the discussion on solar. I have given you in my honest opinion and assessment, I have given you a 45 to 50% understanding of what needs to go into the answers, right? Some more research is required to be able to fully answer the question that has been asked above, right? That is my honest assessment which I am sharing with you, right? Enhance local funding and R&D to drive India's green transitions. This is my third article which is focusing on R&D etc. So Arun Sharma, who is Adani Group's head of sustainability, says it is rapid electrification that we need. Okay, and if we can achieve that, then that will be fantastic. Arun Sharma also believes that India can be a massive manufacturer and exporter of green ammonia, right? So electrification is very important. That will reduce greenhouse emissions, at least in our cities, right? So even if you are doing electrification with fossil fuel and then your entire set of automobiles are, you know, running on batteries etc, or electric vehicles kind of, so your air pollution will significantly come down. And as soon as your heavy duty trucks and heavy duty vehicles they start moving to, let's say, green hydrogen, then your automotive pollution will further come down, right? So that's a positive step. Okay, so we are working towards it. Another issue is funding, right? So at a macro level what is happening is that India is pressurizing the global north. So North American countries, let's say, and Western European countries, let's say Australia's and New Zealand's of the world, Japan's of the world, right? So we are pressurizing the global north that you guys have polluted the entire planet and you have ensured your development, you have ensured your industrialization. आपने अपनी per capita income को increase कर लिया है, आपने अपने आप को डेवलप बना लिया है, राइट? सो द आइडिया ओवर हियर इज कि जो ग्लोबल नॉर्थ है उसके पास काफी पैसा है और आपको वो पैसा ग्लोबल साउथ के साथ शेयर करना चाहिए, राइट? फॉर क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस, क्लाइमेट मिटिगेशन, क्लाइमेट अडेप्टेशन एंड सो ऑन. बिकॉज ग्लोबल साउथ के पास पैसा ही नहीं है. ग्लोबल साउथ अपने पॉपुलेशन को एजुकेशन दे, हेल्थ केयर दे, न्यूट्रिशन दे, स्किल डेवलपमेंट दे, बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर दे, उतने में उनका पैसा खत्म हो जाता है, राइट? लेकिन आप लोगों के पास सरप्लस पैसा है जिसके ऊपर आप लोग बैठे हो, आप लोग उस पैसे का कुछ यूज नहीं कर रहे हो. So we don't have money, you have money, so you need to give us that money, right? Now the idea is that this is one way of getting money, right? But एट द सेम टाइम व्हाट वी हैव टू डू इज कि जो भी एग्जिस्टिंग डोमेस्टिक फंडिंग है उसको हमारे को क्लाइमेट के हिसाब से जो है यूज करना स्टार्ट करना है, राइट. One very beautiful example that is given over here which everybody can understand is that if you are a bank in India or if you are an investor in India and you are giving money to establish a blast furnace for a steel operation, so this blast furnace का जो life है that will be 60 years, right. But ये blast furnace बनाने के अंदर जो आपने खर्चा करोगे it's going to be a waste of money. Why? बिकॉज इस ब्लास्ट फर्नेस के अंदर से निकला हुआ 1 ग्राम स्टील यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू सेल इन यूरोप इन 10 years because they are changing their laws and policies. They are saying that no, we need steel which is green steel. We don't want black steel or dirty steel, right? So you have to look at the emission profile of this blast furnace. You have to look at the cost of this blast furnace. You have to see whether the products that are going to come out of this blast furnace, can they be exported? Can they be utilized? Right. So we need to rework the way we do evaluation of our projects. We need to completely rework that, right? So if you are a State Bank of India or if you are banks and financial institutions and investors in India, तो आपके पैसे को भी आप थोड़ा सा दिमाग लगा के इन्वेस्ट करिए ना. So it's okay to ask for money from global north, that's fine, but what is it that you are doing? So if you can have an ecosystem ready in your country where green financing is taken seriously, right, where it's not green financing for the sake of being called green financing, it is actually green financing. Actual projects are green, actual implementation and then products that we are producing are green. If you can get that going, then that will be very, very good, right? So the idea over here is that if we can make regular financing greener, right, then we can make sure that domestic institutional investors, they are also understanding climate risks. And the moment domestic institutional investors understand climate risks and the ecosystem is ready, then imagine the kind of money that will flow into your country from outsiders who will start respecting you much more, right? Now in India, price of green hydrogen needs to come down. It will not come down without R&D. Now, if you look at R&D in India, so we are spending only 0.6% of our GDP on R&D compared to 1.6% as a global average and 3.5% in the USA. इंडिया के अंदर केवल 40% ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट R&D इन्वेस्टमेंट इज फ्रॉम द प्राइवेट सेक्टर which is 70% in industrialized countries, right? So government of India is coming up with a new policy called rapid, right? And the objective of this rapid policy or scheme is to incentivize investments by private sector into the research and development aspect, right? So we are working on it, right? We need to also look at what is happening in multilateral development banks, right? So your Asian Development Bank, your World Bank, these are your multilateral development banks, right? I would say even your New Development Bank, right? It is also multilateral development bank. Now one thinker is saying that all these institutions, they have become risk averse. All they want to do is that they want to lend money to countries who are facing, let us say, a balance of payment kind of a problem, or they are facing a fiscal deficit kind of a problem, right? तो ये 30-40 साल पुराना मॉडल ऑफ फंडिंग है, right? It's no longer relevant right now. So somebody is saying that these institutions need to do a much better job in terms of supporting climate finance, right? Pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, they are sitting on huge amount of money, guys, huge amount of money. And these are the guys who can actually help the world in a very significant way. How can they help? See, right now we are too dependent upon lithium, too dependent upon cobalt, right? Lithium and cobalt are required, let us say, for solar cells or for batteries, right? So we are just too dependent upon these two resources, too dependent, right? Can we try to champion some other potential technologies which are at a very nascent stage, right? But can we champion those technologies which will reduce dependence upon lithium and cobalt? Because the problem with lithium and cobalt is that very few countries in the world are having the supplies of lithium and cobalt, and they are not going to so easily share it with others, right? So can we start championing certain other technologies? And if you want to champion certain other technologies, so पैसा कौन लगाएगा? Because research करने के अंदर पैसा बहुत लगता है, and returns are not guaranteed, returns are not assured. So can these pension funds and sovereign wealth funds play a positive role in that? I think that the answer is yes from obvious and academic side, right? But that's what they need to do, right? Apart from that, governments, they have earlier, you may remember that we used to say that कि हमारे को जो है global warming को रोकना है 1.5 to 2 degree centigrade above the pre-industrial average. Now we have started looking at 2.6 to 3 degrees centigrade. So this 1.5 to 2 degrees centigrade is out of the window, right? Then 2.6 to 3 degrees centigrade के ऊपर बात चली गई है, right? Now this is something which we need to be very cautious about, right? $800 billion का जो है risk है damage का from cyclones, floods, rising sea levels. जो asset loss है, right? वो काफी ज्यादा हो सकता है. 1/7 of annual GDP growth of the world can be wiped out, right? So obviously we need to take this threat very seriously, and we need to do something positive about the same, right? So this is what my third article speaks about, right? That critically evaluate India's strategy for achieving green transition, focusing on electrification, green hydrogen, and so on. Assess the challenges related to funding R&D investment in international financial systems, and propose solutions to enhance India's green growth trajectory, right? As I told you at the start of the lecture, that this particular set of three articles, they are not going to be extremely well structured, but it was important for me to cover them because sustainability, climate finance, green bonds, these are very important topics. So probably I will be able to do a deep dive into each one of them going ahead, sure, right? But right now, these are the three articles that I wanted to discuss with you. So I'm very happy that we are ending the 100th lecture today, right? And I hope to see the milestone of 150 and 200 in the days coming ahead. And I hope that you will also be maintaining your consistency, not just in watching the lecture, but in doing the answer writing, because doing the answer writing is the only way of clearing any exam that you are actually appearing for, right? Keep that in mind. With this, we'll bring this session to an end. We'll meet again tomorrow and take it ahead. Thank you so much. All the best, and Jai Hind to all of you. Thank you so much.